Would y'all want to be
What up?
Mavericks fans right now?
So so I put this in the docket because I feel like it's on time to talk about it after what happened this past week. And that is getting into like just a just a little history of the Dallas Mavericks because for us growing up, this is a one of the better franchises, like they have one of the
1,000%.
more iconic players of our era of basketball growing up in Dirk. We've seen a lot of other good guys come out of here, Jason Terry, Josh Howard, Tyson Chandler, that championship run. And Dallas has just been a weird franchise, like for a very long time. Before us, after us, like they have just been a very weird franchise in how they're run, who their legends have been. And I think this is like a good time for us to do a kind of a deep dive on the Dallas Mavericks. So where do y'all want to start with this?
Um, are we doing just
I was
current
gonna say,
state
are
of
we
deep
are we
dive of the
talking about
Mavericks,
now?
or because you
Or
started
No, I
off with
think
talking about like
I think
our
it's
era
more
growing up?
I think it's more relevant for us to start the Dirk and Steve Nash era where Dallas kind of becomes what we know them as now.
So my viewpoint of the Mavericks growing up is probably similar to why I get frustrated like when niggas talk about D Wade. Is I think there's a really strong argument the Mavs were the third best franchise during Dirk's run, and it was just the Spurs and the Lakers were better. And so because of that, because I think if you go 2000 to 2010, the only teams that represented the West in the finals were Spurs, Lakers, Mavs. I think that's it, right? Because
The Suns as well.
no, in the finals, no, Suns never got to the
Oh, and the
finals.
finals. You
Nah,
said okay.
nah.
You said finals. Okay.
Yeah, so for the finals, I think it's just Lakers, Spurs, Mavs. Because Mavs are
Mavs, yeah,
06,
yeah.
Spurs were every year, and the Lakers 09, 10, 08, 09, 10, and the first three. So because of that, like all the records San Antonio has during Duncan's era, like all the 50-win seasons, the winning percentage, this many conference appearances, like playoff appearances, Dallas is literally like second in all of those.
hmm
It's just we didn't care about it because the Spurs are first and the Lakers had a three-peat earlier in the decade, and then they obviously went back to back to end the decade. And so I don't think people understand like how great that Mavericks run was. They almost got lumped with the Suns, who I don't think were as good as them, because the Suns were also winning almost 50 or at 50 wins a year. They had Steve Nash, they had Amari. Like Dirk in that era of the Mavs is one of the more underappreciated runs of basketball for a franchise because you're running
Right.
up against Duncan, Kobe, who are two of the greatest 6-7 players ever. So
The Mavs from 2000 from 2000 to 2000 and let me see. Oh, go ahead, Justin. I'm gonna look this up real quick.
oh no, it's kind of where like again, I said last year I was impressed with I looked up Dirk's numbers and because we were talking about like bigs that can't rebound. I'm like, Dirk was actually surprisingly a better rebounder than I thought he was. He just wasn't doing like Duncan and KG rebounding numbers. And that's
Yeah, I
again
mean,
like
part of that is with him being a perimeter player.
oh 1,000%. And he's just and flat out, he's like, if you were to ask now, I probably talking about niggas, I probably overrate Kevin Garnett. I'll just be straight up. I think there's arguments Kevin Garnett's in the top 20. Um, but so I think KG and Duncan were just better than Dirk, but that's not to like demean what Dirk did. Dirk is sixth all time leading in scoring now. Or did Durant just fuck him up? Well, Durant's gonna fuck pass him, but like I think he's either six or seven, or he'll end at seven once Durant passes him. But like before, again, Dirk don't get the respect I think that he deserves because a lot of these niggas, I know KD gets a lot of it. We're talking about like trees and when you branch out, and KD is so great, he probably deserves his own tree. But like that was Dirk's tree. Being a nigga over 6'10" who could shoot like that, who could, he wasn't a great dribbler the same way Durant is, but you could make an argument during his run, Dirk at the high post was as lethal an offensive possession you've got in the league. Like that
The
was
the
just.
The
you think?
Mavs didn't finish. The Mavs didn't finish under 50 wins from 2000, 2001 to 2010, 2011 when they win the championship. They go 50 wins for a decade straight.
Mm-hmm. I think the only team to do that was the Spurs. And now the Spurs did it for 19 years, which is, again, Tim Duncan's fucking crazy. But that's how great that franchise was. And there was no Duncan obviously had Parker and Ginobili. And I don't think Parker and Ginobili are as, again, team success, all that. But if you're talking about individual talent, we're better than what the Mavs had. But it wasn't like, obviously, like when LeBron and Wade were running or like Kobe had power when Kobe had Shaq. The second best player on the Mavs during Dirk's run is who?
The second best player on the Mavs during Dirk's run, it's got to be Jason Terry, right?
Yeah, I think it got to be Jason Terry, and he was the
how
one
many years
constant.
Jason Terry? Because how many years was Jason Terry on the Mavs?
I want to say he was there from at least 05, 06 maybe to after the title.
Yeah, so Jason Terry's there 04, 05 to 2011, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other guy, because that was my only thing. I think, because how long was he there? Because how long was Sean Marion on the Mavs?
Hold on, how the fuck? Why ain't nobody tell me fucking Jason Terry played for the Milwaukee Bucks in 2017?
No one told Jason Terry he plays for the Bucks in 2017.
What the fuck was I?
Last 2 seasons with the Bucks.
Last 2 seasons with the Bucks.
Nigga giving a whole 4 and 3 points a game.
He played. Oh, I remember. Of course, I remember him going to Boston. I remember Brooklyn a little bit.
He was on the Rockets.
I don't remember Houston. I don't remember Milwaukee. I feel like I kind of do remember Milwaukee a little bit. I really don't remember Houston though.
This nigga, yo, but yeah. So, this nigga started with the Hawks. I'll be real. I barely remember anything by Jason. I barely remember non-Mavericks Jason Terry.
Okay.
Well, no, I remember the Celtics. That was right. Braun dunked the fuck out of him.
Yeah, put him into the Earth's crust.
Coffin. Yeah. When he put him in the coffin.
So it's like, again, Dirk to me is just, he's one of those, he's a very underrated superstar. I actually, one of my and I still kind of stand on this, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the player. The hook shot is always the like almost unstoppable shot in basketball history, right? And Kareem was the all-time leading scorer forever. One of my earliest hard foul takes, like literally like month 1, is I'm like, what is the difference between Kareem's hook shot and Dirk's shot? Because Dirk's shot was unblockable for 20 years. And I get it. Kareem is Kareem, and he got all the titles, and he's one of the greatest players ever. But like, why isn't Dirk's shot also considered like the most unstoppable shit? Because you couldn't do anything with it. Yeah. I post, turn around, 7-foot nigga has that bitch like 9 feet in the air. I'm like, I saw Yao almost block it once. Nigga, Yao Ming was 7'6". It's 7'6". I don't want to say that shit like you're not here no more. Yao Ming is 7'6". And couldn't do shit with that shot. I'm like, why don't Dirk get that credit?
Early so since 2000, I mean, I guess outside of this year, we kind of know what's probably going to happen to him, but they've only missed the playoffs 5 times.
Yeah, no, they're one of the most consistent franchises. Now, the last couple years are kind of wild because I think their last 2 years, so like last year was the finals. The year before that, they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, they missed it.
38 and 44.
Yeah, that was wild.
The year before that,
this is really
Conference Finals.
This is really Mark Cuban's run.
That's a fact.
Now, Mark, I mean, he bought the team in 2000 and sold in 2023.
Now, Mark had a hell of a run as an owner.
And if Mark Cuban hadn't sold, Luka would definitely still be a Maverick. Easily. And if he wasn't a Maverick, I guarantee you they'll have 50 first-round picks over the next 20 years.
No, that trade package is going to look more and more nuts. Because the niggas they get,
you're going to be compared to Luka.
Yeah, like it's going to get ugly real quick because you're not Luka and you might be out the league or traded within a year or two, and AD's only here for like another couple years. and it's already hurt. Like,
So taking this back a little bit, let's start a little bit earlier. In 1998-99, that's the lockout season. The league is a mess after Mike retires. We come into 1999-2000. They have drafted Dirk. They have acquired Steve Nash as well. They go from 19-31 in a shortened season to 40-42. And things are looking up for the Mavericks. Donnie Nelson's the coach. They have their franchise guys. They kind of know where they're going now.
Shout out Don Nelson. Oh, did we lose him?
No. I was just gonna let you chime in.
Oh, no, I was saying shout out Don. I was saying shout out Don Nelson. No, no. That was fun. Like, again, Don Nelson, I'm like partial to, just because like TNT used to always throw Warriors games on, like just it'd be like the late Thursday night game, and I swear it was only ever against, because the Warriors weren't good, but they were like a fun team to watch, and it'd always be against like the Suns or the Mavs or some niggas, and that shit was like the OG, like the way the NBA's played today. Them niggas would be like 130 to 130 like the end of the third. Like, ain't nobody playing defense. That shit was like fun pickup basketball. So shout out to Don Nelson.
In 2000, 2001, they go from the sub 500 record. They go 53-29 on the back of Dirk, Steve Nash, and shout out to Michael Finley.
Shout out to Michael Finley.
Shout out to Michael Finley. When we talk about who his best teammate was, if he could have got Michael Finley for an extended period of time and healthy, it might have been Michael Finley.
Yeah, for sure. Michael Finley, he was the guy. Shout out to the
They continue to, get better over the years. They kind of stay around that. They don't, like we said, they don't go under 50 wins again until the year after the title, which is, again, the lockout season, ironically. So the year before they get Dirk is the lockout season. The year after he finally breaks through and wins his first championship is another lockout season. So the NBA is a very funny sport in that way. So they go 57-25 in 01-02, losing the semis again. And that kind of became a theme for them for a while. So after that, it's another year of improvement. They improved by another 3 wins. 02-03, they go 60-22, lose in the Western Conference Finals. Losing the Western Conference Finals that year. And that team was, of course, like we mentioned, the Spurs. The Spurs won the championship that year. They beat the fucking New Jersey Nets. In that finals, Tim Duncan went 24, 17, and 5. So Dirk and the Mavericks had a uphill battle to fight.
Duncan did that to them, or Duncan did that in the finals?
He did that in the finals. But if he did that in the finals, just like that's what you have to compete against. You have to compete against Tim Duncan. You have to compete against Shaq and Kobe. Now, not for long, as we would go on to see, but it was just wild. A lot.
Because this is why like personality and the way stories are made absolutely matters. Because I'm gonna say a victim of this, but I'll definitely add to this. Shaq's run during those first 3 finals is niggas would act like it was like the only nigga that could even come close is Wilt. And Wilt didn't have great playoff numbers. Like, that was like, oh, this is real-time Wilt. Like, Shaq is dominating. I'm like, yo, 24, 17, and 5 is fucking crazy. But you would never hear about it because Shaq was in LA. He was the personality. He was the face of the league. And it was like, oh, he's doing shit nobody could ever do. And I'm like, Duncan ain't that far off. Like, Duncan doesn't talk to anybody. And so I guess that, like, that nigga just has, again, they, KG, and I'll let you go, but KG obviously most renowned for like his trash talk. Used to say Duncan used to piss him off because that nigga would hit him with a spin move or a shimmy shake and then just say good job as KG tried to block his shit. KG was mad as hell. He's like, hey, yo, good job, son.
He's fucking Tim Duncan, man. Oh. Important to note that I want to put in here is that the year where they go 60-22, they started 14-0. They started 14-0, which at that time was 1 win shy of tying the NBA record set by the 93-94 Rockets, who went 15-0. So they start the season off on fire. And they couldn't they kept it up until the Western Conference Finals because you're running into a dynasty. So in the summer of 03-04, which was at the time, two blockbuster trades was announced. Blockbusters, I'm putting in like big air quotes. The Mavericks acquired Antoine Jameson, I'm not going past Antoine Jameson. The rest of these players don't matter. They acquired the Mavericks acquired Antoine Jameson in exchange for a bunch of other people. Noted Antoine Walker was involved in this move as well. So Dirk Finley and Steve Nash and Antoine Jameson won six man that year. They keep they keep on winning as Dallas does, and the next season they go 52-30. Now it's not 60-22, obviously, so they're down, but it's still a 52 win team, which is we all know is not easy. But they lose in the Western Conference first round that year. So to come from the conference finals to lose in the first round, they obviously are taking a dip. They lost to the Kings that year. Which was kind of on their last ride before they started the transition after Chris Webber and Bibby and all of that.
That's like the last couple of years of Vlade, like back
Yeah,
when. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Vlade might have been gone at that point. So the Mavs lose in five to the Kings that year, and they lose game one, 116-105. They lose game two, 83-79. This is what y'all wax poetic about on Twitter. I want to remind y'all. Y'all be talking about 83-79 basketball. Think about that. They come back and they win game three in Dallas, 104-79. Lose game four, 94-92, and lose game five, 119-118. So it was a very close series. Only two relative blowouts in that series. It could have went either way for Dallas. So at the end of the 03-04 season, the Mavericks, after another impressive regular season, they come up short in the playoffs. They don't do what people would expect them to do or like them to do, and that's make a run at the title. So we're gonna take a break here because we about to get into what I would consider the second half of this whole thing for the Mavericks, 05-06, where we know what happened there for them. So at this point in the early 2000s, they win at 50 every year. They're getting to the playoffs, but they're running into issues, which is not dissimilar to what Luka was dealing with outside of 50 wins every year.
The it again, it's and I feel like it's repeating this point, but this is why context matters so much with like player rankings and analyzing what guys did in their career. A lot of people would have different careers if their competition was at the early stage, Kobe, Shaq, middle stage, Duncan, KG. Excuse me. I know the Lakers had a couple down years there. You run into the Suns, and then you have to deal with towards the back end, Kobe, Powell, and then again, Miami, LeBron, D-Wade. Like the Mavs were a great team, and sometimes it is just a matter of like, like I'll use him. I made fun of him last week. Like sometimes you Clyde Drexler, and there's nothing wrong with being Clyde Drexler. You just not 23 on the Bulls, and it's like, all right, like that's just the way like the dice rolled. You were a great player. You took your team as far as you could. You just happened to play against a nigga who was better than you. Chuck got this credit a lot, or I think still Chuck. I think is one of the few players that gets the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's because people like his personality on TV. Like niggas shit on Utah for some very good reasons. It was like, oh, they couldn't win. It's like Chuck had the same shit. Chuck, when he was a great player, he just ran into 23 on Chicago. And it's like, all right. And we understand, like, all right, great player. He just didn't win a title. And Chuck is like one of the few people that's escaped that whole, oh, your career wasn't as great because you didn't win multiple titles. And like, it just don't work out for everybody to win multiple titles as Hall of Famers. That's one of the few reasons we separate the guys who are at like the very high end of the list. Magic, Bird, Kobe, Braun, Michael, like, it's rare air when you get into that 3, 4, 5 ring shit. You know, Dirk got one. And Dirk has an argument as maybe the best ring of all time.
The greatest ring ever.
Like, so, you know.
I think it's interesting looking back at this time of Mavericks basketball, and it's like obviously we have been speaking about like the big heavy hitters at the top, the Spurs, the Lakers, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But even when you're getting into like that tier of not champions but competing, you're talking about KG and Sam Cassell and what was it, Latrell on Minnesota. You're talking about the Kings who were making a run at the title, probably should have made the finals. We all know how that situation went when they played the Lakers in that series. Like, you're not only having to get to that point where you're playing the Spurs, where you're playing the Lakers, but you got to go through the last few years of Stockton and you know who. You got to go through that run of Peja and Weber and Bibby. You got to go through. You got to go through goddamn Minnesota. Like it was a gauntlet. Like it was a gauntlet in the West, and that lasted for over a decade. So for the Mavs to be at that point where okay, we're making a run at this. Like we have our guys. We got Steve Nash, who's arguably the best point guard in the league. We got Dirk, who's one of the best big men, one of the best scorers in the league. We got Michael Finley, who's complementary to what both of these guys do, can stretch the floor and he can get to the cup. But it's just not easy. This is a team that with Donnie Nelson, they go 53-29, they go 57-25, 60-22. You make the Western Conference Finals. You feel good. You lost to the champions. You don't hang your head at that. You lost to the champions. If you can kind of get better or at least retain, you think you'll come back next year and get back here or get to the finals. And the next year you lose in the first round in 5 games, and it's just like shit. What do we do?
Yeah, no, that's that first round. What you're talking about? That's the Warriors series, right? Where Baron Davis is going crazy.
Right.
Yeah, that one was.
No. That comes later, and we'll get to that.
Is again, I think that's where just the. So Dirk doesn't have an MVP by this point, but he's clearly one of the best players in the league.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're just unfortunately again because all you do have in real time is to be compared to your peers. That's when it's rough when at that point in time, like your peers, Duncan's already got a few, Kobe's already got a few. KG's probably the other comparable player. Like there's KG's frustrations in Minnesota losing in the playoffs while averaging what KG's MVP is 04?
04, yep.
Yeah. And so he's got again, Dirk's got to struggle with that. If it's like, okay, you almost in that different sport, but like modern day Josh Allen. It's like, all right, Lamar got MVPs, Mahomes got rings. Like until this year, like what the fuck do I got? KG would have had the MVP. Y'all both have playoff struggles. Kobe and Duncan got rings. And at that point, you are competing with again, the Sacramento team brought up a couple times. That's another great forgotten team. Like the Kings used to be giving people hell.
Great.
Like that's one of those teams. If you put them in today, you could argue they are way better in today's NBA than they were even in their own NBA.
There's a big came too early team, like they were just before their time. Yeah. And when you look back at that era of power forwards, it's just like for Dirk to even have that level of success, and he's playing against these guys every night, and we haven't even gotten into the era of Amari yet. It's just like it was not easy. It was not easy.
Power forward was stacked in the 2000s. This is what, especially in the West, this is one of those. I'll save that for a different conversation. But yeah, no, the West is crazy. Power forwards are crazy. I kind of skipped ahead a few years. I was looking at the one year that always gets noted is like in 08, the Nuggets won 50 games, were the 8th seed. The Warriors won 48 games, didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, and you just compare that shit to like now. It's like if I just pull up the 2012 NBA standings, let's see. We got In the West, the Clippers 34-29. They the 8 seed right now. Do we not have? Oh, there they are. No, yeah, there we go. I was like, I know we got somebody under 500 sneaking in this bitch. The Hawks are 30-34. They a 7 seed. Hawks ain't been this good in years. They feel like they might not make. They're still gonna be in the play-in, but they're gonna be on the 7th side of the play-in. They used to having to come all the way down from the 9 or 10 seed.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So it's just
we call that the bull zone.
That it is. And the Bulls the Bulls finally traded away everybody. Shout out to the Bulls. Y'all finally realized like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan ain't the maybe a Fire Kendrick video, but it ain't gonna make you in the playoffs.
So after losing the first round, the Mavs come back in 04-05. This is where we get into the Eric Dampier of it all, Jason Terry. They acquired Devin Harris. They acquired Jerry Stackhouse. They lost Steve Nash in free agency. So Steve Nash in 04-05, he begins his era as the Suns point guard, and that whole D'Antoni era begins.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't really run that offense that got them to those highs, and it's not as electric anymore, but they still have a really successful season. Don Nelson stepped down in March. Avery Johnson came in to succeed him, and the defense picked up for them. So up until this point, their high power offense, we know how Don Nelson want to run. So their high power offense running up and down. Avery Johnson comes in, they slow it down a little bit more. They improve on the previous season where they won 53 games. They go 58-24 this year. They beat the Rockets, which was the McGrady Rockets, in round one of the playoffs in 07. I think T-Mac was in Houston by that point. They beat the Rockets in round one in 7 games, but they lose to Steve Nash and the Suns 4-2 in the next round. So at this point, Dallas, since going to the conference finals in 02-03, they've now lost in the first round and they've lost in the second round, but they have improved their win total from last season when they went 52-30. My bad, not 53. They went 52-30, now 58-24. So we get to 06, we get to 05-06, and this is where it kind of gets very funny for the Dallas organization up until that championship. So Dallas in 05-06, they make their finals run. They finally make it to the finals this year. And they get the 1 seed, they go 60-22 again. Avery Johnson's coach of the year. They sweep the Memphis Grizzlies. They finally get past the Spurs. In that Spurs series, in the second round, 5 of the 7 games were decided in the last minute, which is no shocker. And game 7 went to overtime. So you assume Dirk is getting over the hump. So conference finals, we got Mavericks, we got Steve Nash and the Suns. The Mavs take care. They take care of the Suns. They get past them in 6 games. And now to the finals. So let's take a break and talk about what happened in the finals.
This is why I don't give a fuck. This finals is exactly why I don't give a fuck about what niggas did at 35 versus what other niggas did at 35. Because I ain't ever seen 13 do that. The shit that nigga 3 was doing back in 05-06, I ain't ever seen 13 do that. I don't know. Again, context is everything. Remember, out of that crazy 03-04 draft,
yeah,
Ron, Melo, D-Wade, nigga, at that point in time, only one of them niggas put up 35 in the finals. Y'all know how insane it is for a nigga who can't shoot threes to get 35 in the finals?
The funniest thing looking back on that finals is that obviously Dallas was up 0-2, but I mean that Dallas was up 2-0, but it's so weird that D Wade had just that run in those next 4 games, but like Dallas was just looked at as just okay, they just won't get it done at that point.
That was Black Jesus 2.0. Then they said that was Michael Jordan reincarnated for 4 games. Shaq was in that series.
Yeah.
And like Dirk Nowitzki, Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal, like there was mad Hall of Famers in that series. And one nigga was going 35 fucking running at the fucking basket full speed. Yo, how D-Wade didn't get hurt more often is crazy. Like if you see D-Wade's like career highlights, like the way this nigga would fall, I'm just like, shout out to Flash, man.
So in the 06, James Harden does not deserve this. James Harden don't deserve this.
You're right. He don't deserve to be in those combos. Keep going.
In the 06 finals, Dallas win game 1, 90-80. Jason Terry has 32 points. In game 2, Dallas wins 99-85. Dirk goes for 26 and 16.
Look at those scores. That's my NBA.
Man, that's a third quarter score right there. So at this point, it looks bad for the Heat, and it looked like Dallas is finally going to break through. Miami goes on to win game 3, 98-96. D-Wade has 42 and 13 in game 3. In game 4, the Heat win 98-74. D-Wade goes for 36. Game 5, the Heat win 101-100. D-Wade goes for 43. And in game 6, the Heat win 95-92. D-Wade goes for 36.
That's why. And I love current basketball. I'm not trying to be that guy. But that's why 30 is different. Because this nigga was doing, you just said he did what, 42 and the team had 99?
Mm-hmm.
Like 40
he went for 42. The Heat had 98. When he went for 43, the Heat had 101. When he went for 36 in the deciding game, the Heat had 95.
Niggas used to almost drop damn near 50% of their team's points. Like that's the difference. That's why what like niggas say like, oh, like niggas average 30. Like when Mike was averaging, and I'm not trying to do this, but like when Mike was averaging 30, the Bulls were averaging like 84. Like that nigga was the offense. Like the hangover game, nigga had what, 30? How much you have in the hangover game?
Enough to win. That's for sure.
And the Bulls didn't get out. I think the Bulls scored like 80 points. Like it was different, man. And again, that's what D-Wade did over those 4 games. Like I get it. What LeBron did in 2016 is probably the only performance I'm putting over that as far as a 4-game stretch in the finals that I've personally seen. And like there's been great finals performances, but what Flash did was fucking crazy. That shit was fucking crazy.
So in 06-07, after blowing the 2-0 lead in the finals the previous year, Dallas comes back. They're better. They are better. They go from a 60-win team to a 67-win team. They are 67-15, first in the West. And Dirk wins his first MVP this year. He's looking like the best guy in the league, on the best team. They start the season 52-5.
Wait, say that again?
They started the season 52-5.
Yo, what the fuck? Yo. This is the MVP season, right? So 06?
Yes. They start the 06-07, so 07. They started the season 52-5. The Mavericks were killing. In Dirk's MVP season, important to look at for him, he goes for, take a quick look at the stats. In 06-07, Dirk Nowitzki is 24 a game. He has 9 rebounds. He is 50 from the field, 42 from 3, and 90 from the free throw strike. So 50, 40, 90, 24, 9, 3 assists on the best team in the league. 24.6, so let's say 25. And He's 28. Dallas is looking like an all-time great team. All-time great team. And it all comes apart in the first round of the playoffs. It all falls apart. They lose to the AC, the Golden State Warriors, in what was that? What was that? A clean sweep?
The Warriors series?
Yeah, it was the Warriors series a clean
Warriors
sweep?
4-2. I think it was 4-2.
4-2?
Yep.
Okay. So they lose. Yep, it was 4-2. So they lost in 6 games. In that series, in game 1, the Warriors win 97-85. B. Diddy went for 33 on them boys. Dallas came back in game 2 to win 112-99. Steven Jackson had 30 to lead all scores. So that should let us know something. And the Warriors.
That's why that nigga's it's that 30 is why he still think he talk crazy now. Anyway.
The Warriors go on to win game 2. So at this point, the Warriors up 2-1. They win 109-91. So there's no close games over these first 3. So whoever winning is just kicking ass. In game 4, the Warriors go up 3-1. They win 103-99. So we get our first close game. Baron Davis, another 30-piece. Dallas shows some fight in game 5. They win 118-112. Dirk scores 30. And in Golden State, with season on the line, Dallas just gets run out the building. They lose 111-86. And now at this point, we can take another little break. Like
they was busting their ass.
We could go ahead, bro.
No, I was just gonna say like today in 2025, like if you had that type of stretch, you liable to get traded. Like, just
Great
as far
point.
as
Great point.
Being one of the top teams, maybe making it to the finals, not getting over the hump, like you liable to get a la Luka Doncic.
and this is why.
Just made it to the finals.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy because, like, I'm trying to think of what obviously the sport is covered differently, but it's whatever Giannis has figured out, and I'm not sure if you can even really do this or if it's just accidental. And Giannis obviously got a title. But, like, just niggas haven't really talked about Giannis last 2 to 3 years. Still averaging crazy ass. Like, Giannis is doing shit historically that's literally never happened before. And it's just whatever. And you get to the playoffs, and whether they win or lose, it's like, it feels like it's Dirk-like, where it's, he's going to be there, but then something happens and they don't win it. They both obviously have the one title at the moment. But to Will's point, I guess why it's so weird, and I think that's why there's such a disconnect from even they're like, we grew up watching basketball versus now, is like Dirk and KG, you can't have those kind of career storylines in 2025. And I don't know if that's just because the money is too high. Like, because at this point, I know Dirk was always one of the highest paid. Dirk's contract now, he's probably making $9-10 million a year, $11 million a year, probably back in 04-05. Because what Shaq set the records in 2000, and I know Shaq signed like 6 years, 7 years, 100 million, 111, something like that. So everybody besides him specifically, everyone, the highest paid guys are between 10 to 15. And I don't know if that's maybe why like you can't do this anymore. It's like,
in 06, in 06-07, his MVP year, Dirk was making 15.1.
Okay, so
the MVP of the league was making
15 a year.
Dorian Finney-Smith money.
That's what I was gonna say. Right now, 15.1. You could get paid that type of money and not even be in a rotation.
Duncan Robinson, like Duncan Robinson's had stretches of just literally not being involved.
Duncan Robinson, how much does he make? He probably making about 20.
I think so.
Probably.
So you could be making 15 million. Justin, you can go get us 15 M's. You ain't even gotta get in shape for real.
This nigga Duncan Robinson got 5 years, $90 million.
Yep. He got that.
And he will go stretches without playing. Yo, that's all you gotta do is stand in the corner. I could do that.
And he barely do that. He don't get that much playing time. I'm saying you can go if he got 18, you can go get us 8.
For everybody listening, this deep dive is necessary because Luka 15, 20 years ago, I'm not going to say he was Dirk, but this transcendent player that is winning you a lot of games and getting you to highs that a lot of franchises don't get to, specifically in the playoffs. He was just fucking traded because he had issues with the franchise and his weight and his health and all of that. But when you look at the comparison from him to who he replaced, which was Dirk as the face of the franchise, their fates could have been very similar if switched. If we switch time frames, if we switch eras, Dirk could have been this. Dirk could have been the guy traded fucking on a random Saturday night with no real explanation as to why. And we don't get any of this.
Dirk KG trade would have gone crazy back in the day.
But it's so different though. Like, and I mean, and of course, social media wasn't around, and it wasn't a thing back then. But it's like when you think about some of the superstars from back then, you never heard questions about their work ethic and things like that. Like you didn't hear that like as much as you do today when you talk about these young superstars. Also,
this is a different world.
And not to say that it wasn't a thing, and that's why I kind of threw in there like, all right, social media wasn't around and things like that, but
players had to like snitch on that kind of. And I don't
we only knew niggas wasn't working out if Kobe told us what they wasn't.
No, I was about to say the one nigga who like had that reputation was Kwame Brown, and guess who Kwame had to play with early in his career? 2 psychopaths, and it was like if the players, because there's so many more people. Because there's so many more people in media and so many more people trying to like quote unquote break a story, is everybody's getting texts, everybody's asking questions, everybody's trying to get something out. Versus back then, there was some like player camaraderie of unless you feel like it has to be said, like you didn't tell the media shit. Like not that everyone went full Bill Belichick, but niggas wasn't snitching unless it was 24-23. They was telling you.
I mean, but it's also like ain't nobody have to tell me Raymond Felton was fat. Like, so but it's like these days because they get buckets, it's like all right, we can overlook him being fat because he getting buckets. Like, you know, niggas ain't got to tell me Zion was overweight, like he in the best shape of his career right now, so like I can see it.
No, that's true, but there was less media. Like again, there was just like teams used to have I don't know how many like beat reporters, inside reporters y'all follow on Twitter for like your teams. Is Denver at one point, there's like 2 old guys who I follow. That's because they've been covering the Broncos for like 30-40 years. And when they first started covering, like it was just them and like the local newspaper. Like now niggas have not just 30-40 insiders keeping track of them, like 30-40 insiders who do like everything, like Adam Schefter's high end, obviously, where they're checking on everybody. Then you got a lower level between that. Then you got your actual insiders for the team. And then you just got niggas with YouTube channels. Like niggas YouTube channels try to tell you like, yo, I heard that.
Sources from the YouTube channel. It's the tough era we're in. It's a tough era we're in, people.
The Gronk story is literally and again, I made my jokes today. It happened, but it was like, it was a random nigga who was a Bronco YouTuber who just said, yo, I heard Gronk want to come out of retirement. He fucking with Bo. And I'm like, okay, haha. That shit was literally picked up, and they had Jay Glazer had to go fucking ask Rob Gronkowski, yo, dog, you come out of retirement? Like, nigga, no. Like, that's how quick stories go now.
Gronk said, wow, what Tom say? So we'll fast forward through this a little bit because it kind of summarizes our point. So in 07-08, Dallas goes from 67, and it's also important to note to that Warriors loss, Dallas was 67-12 against the league in that 06-07 season. They did not beat the Warriors that year. So they were 0-3 against Golden State. So 3 of their 15 losses was to Golden State. and Don Nelson, important to note, leading up to that point.
Okay, makes some sense.
So to say they had that number be a fucking understatement.
Yeah.
So in 07-08, Dallas goes from 67 wins to 51 wins. Obviously, it's tough to keep up that pace, but you talk about just a loss just affecting the team. It was evident. So the next year they trade Devin Harris 2 first-round picks to get Jason Kidd back. Jason Kidd obviously started his career with Dallas. They wanted him back. They got him back. They ended the season 51-31. In the first round, they lost to the New Orleans Hornets. Sounds like a made-up team. Lost to the New Orleans Hornets 99-94 during the season, which Chris Paul probably should have been MVP. One day after that loss, Avery Johnson is fired and Rick Carlisle is hired.
Rick has really been coaching that long.
May 9th, 2008.
Holy shit. Man.
So the Rick Carlisle Dallas era starts. So in 2008, 2009, a ninth consecutive 50-win season for the Mavericks. Ninth consecutive 50-win season. They're the 6th seed. And they go into the postseason with a streak of 25 consecutive games. Dirk goes into the postseason, 25 straight games, 20 more points, which ends in the quarterfinal series against the San Antonio Spurs. So again, even when things are looking up, you win 50
which
games
season
again.
is this? This 08,
This 08-09. Yep, 08-09.
They beat the Spurs and
Oh
lost
yeah,
to
yeah.
the Nuggets. They beat the Spurs and lost to the Nuggets.
They beat the Spurs. They lost to the Nuggets when Melo went
Carmelo Anthony led Nuggets.
nuclear.
I wonder if that's the series when I think it was one of those games Josh Howard was trying to foul Melo at the end of the game and he hit
Melo hit the
corner three.
It was that
Melo,
game. And
shout out to Melo.
Game 3, and Dallas was close. And this is according to Wikipedia. Game 3, Dallas was close the whole way. Dallas led by 5 with less than a minute to go. Carmelo hit a 3 to give the Nuggets a 106-105 lead. And the Mavericks went down 3-0 to the Nuggets.
Now Melo hit that's an all-time amount of fuck you shots.
See, but why Melo was doing Chris Paul that we just said the Hornets.
That was
talk about your mans.
Nigga, I hate how that season ended. I don't even want to talk about that season. I was gonna say some shit because Chris was going crazy, but I hated how that season ended. But Melo was hitting three. Melo was staring at niggas and then shooting threes because that was still back when I don't know if Melo was ever considered a great shooter, but it was definitely on the streakier side earlier in his career. And niggas oh yeah, you let him shoot the 3 instead of letting him get to high post or an area. Because if he was high post or in the paint, it was you can't do shit with him. And that nigga was hitting threes, just saying "fuck you" as he shot that bitch. That's really where Steph got the inspiration.
That was tough.
And that Jason Terry was tough. Also 6th man of the year that year.
You said what?
I said Jason Terry was the 6th man. Yeah, he was 6th man of the year that year. Jason Terry.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Justin.
That's at that point in time, because that's pre. It's not pre, but that's before Jamal Crawford went on his run of because he ended up.
It's before the Lou Will and Jamal run of they're the 6th man.
Yeah, I think at that point Terry was probably considered him and Ginobili were probably because Ginobili was doing that he was 6th man some years, he was a starter other years. I don't really know how to view it.
They was running that Ginobili 6th man finesse for a while.
It was wild to be yo, he started, now he's coming off the bench. I'm y'all niggas I don't
they literally, if you count the games, they probably started him just the right amount of games for him to win 6th man of the year.
He did,
but he was playing with the starter, so he had so many, he had enough minutes to where his points was
yeah, and he was averaging 38 minutes.
Yeah, man.
I'm yo, what the fuck?
Shout out to Pop, man. Get well, Pop. So game 4, Dallas survived. They literally fucking survived. They went 119, 117. Dirk had 44, but it was all for naught. They went to Denver game 5 and got stomped out 124, 110.
Yeah, that's
It's just like, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And you could not foresee the next few years coming for Dallas. You couldn't foresee that shit coming for them at all. So 2009, 2010, they improved their wins by 5. They go 55 and 27. Lose in the first round, however. So you go from second round to the first round, and this is just the same old thing with Dallas at this point. Nobody expects them to have playoff success. You think this is a team that can win a lot of games in the regular season, compete, but it's just not going to happen. They lose to the Spurs in the first round 4-2. And what was that Spurs team like in 2010? I feel like that was a
in
kind of
2010 the Spurs.
Hold on,
switching
I got
eras. I
pulled
feel
up.
like
Oh, that's
Tony
we
Parker
had
was starting to
DeJuan
be
Blair.
like the lead.
Parker's it depends when you want to consider that, because I actually consider that the Ginobili era slightly.
I got the
like,
roster right here if y'all want to go through it.
Yeah.
So we got
Parker won
DeJuan
Finals
Blair.
MVP in 07, right? That LeBron one.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Tony Parker. This is very funny. You said DeJuan Blair.
Keith Bogans. Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, bro, you good, you good.
Shout out to DeJuan
Matt
Blair.
Bonner, Tim Duncan, Alonzo G, Manu Ginobili, George Hill, Richard Jefferson. Oh, this is a name right here. Jan Mahimi.
John Mahimi, Wizards legend.
Roger Mason, Antonio McDyess, Tony Parker, Garrett Temple.
So how many games did they win?
How many guys? Let me see if it's at the top here. 50 and 32.
Tim
Okay,
Duncan's
that's
top
appropriate.
5.
That's appropriate. If you would have said like 57 or 56, I'd have been like, what
50,
the
50
fuck?
and 32. And that was 7th in the Western Conference, 2nd in the division.
Tim Duncan top 5, dog, because ain't no fucking way.
We in a
No
it was a different sport. It was a different sport. It's a different sport, bro.
Dog. Ain't no fucking
Antonio
way.
McDyess was on that team in 2010
and getting minutes.
50 wins being the seventh seed right now. This team is in the playoffs with like 40-some wins.
Nigga, the East has 2 teams under 500. The Hawks is feeling. We just talked about the Hawks. They 30 and 34. They the 7th seed.
And after all of that, Dallas lost to these niggas still.
Don't get top 5, bro. Like, it don't make no sense. Bro, DeJuan Blair was really DeJuan Blair. See, that's what Draymond Green owes his career to. DeJuan Blair blew out both his ACLs just so that Draymond could have a chance.
Yeah. You really hate Draymond, huh? Shout out to my dog Draymond.
Like DeJuan Blair was at it. Shout out to DeJuan Blair. DeJuan Blair went through hell. That nigga was going up against fucking Hasheem Thabit in college with no ACLs and like fucking him up.
So this is an important season for the Mavericks. So obviously they don't have the playoff success, but this is still a very important season for where they be next year. A day before the trade deadline, they got a deal done that sent Josh Howard, James Singleton, and Drew Gooden to the Wizards in exchange for Caron Butler, Brendan Haywood, and Deshaun Stevenson.
Gang banging.
Deshaun Stevenson. A goddamn name.
Y'all kids today don't understand.
After that first round exit to the Spurs, Dirk re-signs with the Mavericks. 4 for 80.
4 for 80, still coming with your wife's plates wrapped in aluminum foil.
And what year is this?
This was 2010. So at 32 years old that summer, Dirk signed 4 for 80. Dirk Nowitzki signing 4 for 80 for inflation in 2025. That's a $200 million contract.
See, but that was back then because like See, because that's how the Warriors finessed it. Because a couple years later, that was the Steph, the 4 for 44 is like the all-time contract still. Because that's how them niggas turned into everything.
It's the players when you know they're good theory. It's the Eagles theory.
That's
Get the finesse the bag. That way, you when it get too heavy, you already won enough.
You get grace.
You get grace. You get grace.
you get grace.
So obviously, this summer was are I what is it still the
this
most
decision
infamous
summer.
summer in NBA history?
The decision.
Is it still that summer? I mean, we'll talk about this more later this year. We got that coming up, but
The most
I
infamous
don't.
summer in NBA history?
Yeah, has any summer been this more like remembered than that 2010 summer?
Oh yeah, no. I think personally, I think KD to the Warriors topped it.
No.
Personally,
That could only be the contender, and I don't think so though.
I think because of I think the difference being that like LeBron is the bigger name. LeBron, that story in real time was crazy. I think the context besides it just being LeBron, KD losing to them niggas and then going there was fucking nuts in real time.
But
No, but
mentioning
that's
context. Go ahead,
yeah,
bro. Go
mention
ahead.
it. No, I was gonna say the same thing. Like when you add context, like it's different. Like, but just the thought of where is LeBron gonna end up.
We thought D Wade was a bull.
Like we didn't know what we did. Like we had no idea what was gonna happen. Like that, it was crazy. I don't think. I mean, like in hindsight, not even in hindsight, but just with the context added, it's like yeah, KD was a big deal because of the situation. 73-9. You lost to them. You blew a 3-1 lead and all of that stuff. So everything else combined kind of made it a thing.
Like that was the first era of like the jersey swapping Photoshop shit. Like LeBron was in every jersey. Like D Wade was a bull way before he actually became a bull. Like we didn't know where Amari was going to go. Was LeBron and Amari going to play together on the Knicks? Was like you didn't know. Like it was just so like was LeBron gonna be a fucking New Jersey net because they was moving to Brooklyn? Like this
Saying
was
to running
what was
around with
happening.
Jay-Z.
This what was happening at the time. It's just like I cannot remember a more like weighted off season number one and like a crazier summer than that. And then what actually happened, it was just that that was more shocking than what anybody could have thought was going to happen.
And not even just, but even aside from all of that, you talking about the at the time the best player in the league. Arguably some may have still believed it was Kobe at the time and everything, but you
I
didn't
think
see
Kobe
top.
had it only because he was coming off the back to back. Not saying it would have been right.
Kobe didn't have it, but okay.
But
I'm not saying it would have been right.
That's a
But
whole different. That's a whole
if you were
different debate.
saying
But I'm
like it
saying
was coming off in California, coming off back to back, it was over here. It was definitely him.
I'm just saying it was people would say it was debatable. Whatever.
That's fair. That's
But
For sure. For sure.
so like, when was the last time you seen like the best player in the league do this?
When that nigga went back to Cleveland.
I'm saying before
Yeah.
before then.
Yeah.
But even then though, like when he went back to Cleveland, I think a lot of people thought like, oh, he gonna go back to Cleveland.
No, that's
Everybody.
Like
That was like an open
that
secret.
I think that summer everybody was like, where is he gonna end up?
it's the only. So they're both and again, they're both in contention. I'm gonna make this a poll this week. They're both in contention because they're the only two times where it visibly shifted where everybody hated in the NBA. Like teams got rivalries and certain fans got certain fans and players that they don't like. LeBron going to Miami made Miami like a hated team. KD going to the Warriors made the Warriors a hated team. I'm not speaking for y'all, but I'm just in general. Like it shifted the way people felt about a basketball team and a set of basketball players. So they're definitely the only two in contention. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer. But because I'll never forget, it's still the eeriest basketball game ever is LeBron's first game in Cleveland. Like that shit was nuts. They had security for like multi-millionaires, like standing like at for the fucking standing at the court because niggas thought somebody was going to like run up or do something like again. You want to fight Xavier Worthy? Cool. My nigga LeBron James is 6'9", 250. Like what were you gonna do if you ran up on LeBron?
What they have, Chuck? What they have?
Like, I just like, oh man. But no, that's definitely that was definitely a summer. That was definitely
So Dallas strikes out on all of these guys. We say all of that to say Dallas does not get any of these players.
nobody.
They acquired Tyson Chandler, which goes on to be the catalyst for them to finally break through and win the NBA championship. And that is still the greatest championship run that any player has ever had, that Dirk had in 2011, winning the championship.
So I'm gonna put out a friendly discussion for this one. So I think Dirk's yes, because I think the only other one that's close, if you want to go series to series, is I think the Lakers 09, right? The first one.
Yeah.
Because that was through all 51 teams. Because right, because 08's the Celtics, yeah? No, 08-09 is the Lakers, 09-10. Celtics are 07-08.
Yeah.
Okay, so 08-09, Lakers got to go Nuggets, Nuggets, Suns, Spurs, and then Celtics in the finals.
08-09, no, they beat the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. And the other two teams would have been the
No, 08?
Oh, you talking about so 08? No, so if you're talking about you talking about the Lakers, right?
Yeah.
So their playoff run would have been 2009. The season would have started 08.
Yeah.
Their playoffs would have been 09. So in 09, they beat the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. They beat Chauncey and Melo in the Western Conference Finals.
So it was first round they beat Utah, second round they beat Houston.
Okay.
Then they beat the Nuggets and then
the Celtics.
And no, I'm looking at the wrong. I think I'm looking at 09 2010 because that was when they played the Magic.
Right. No, so in 09, 08-09, the Lakers beat the Magic in the finals.
Okay,
and in 9-10, they beat the Celtics in the finals.
Okay. Yeah, because the one before that they lost. Yeah, because they lost. Yeah, because they lost to the Celtics the first time.
Okay. So
now you probably got it.
Giving that to Dirk.
You only got it a little confused because I think in 08-09 they beat Melo and AI in the first round.
Yeah, that was sweet.
In 09 they beat Chauncey and Melo in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah. So I'm giving that to Dirk. I'll say for the finals, who's friendly debate? Who's got the better finals? Is it LeBron versus the Warriors or is it Dirk versus the Heat?
That's a great question. I'm
gonna put this up on the poll too.
I would still say Dirk has the better finals because he didn't have anyone play at the level Kyrie played.
I agree.
As great as everybody was, he didn't have anybody play at that level that Kyrie was playing at.
Kyrie dropped 40 twice.
I believe so.
Yeah. I know for sure
40
once. And then he definitely had the 40-point game, and then he had it might have been high 30s when he hit the shot over Steph. No, Dirk's run, with all respect to, again, maybe this is showing my age. I know they won 73 games, but if you're just going off players, like niggas wouldn't tell you that's the best Warriors team. Obviously, Durant was a huge upgrade. Dirk beat D Wade still in his prime, LeBron still in his prime, and Chris Bosh still in his prime. Like, I just don't know if you're ever gonna have. I don't think you're ever gonna have that amount of talent and that great of players in their prime on one team again. Like, that's two guys who I'm saying is top 20 ever, and another guy who was a perennial all-star, all in their prime, against a nigga who got bounced in the first round a few years ago. Like,
and even then, you say two guys who are top two at their position.
Yeah, like
so you got Kobe and D Wade. As far as shooting guards go, then you got LeBron, who is obviously number one to everybody except me at the small forward position.
I was wondering where that was gonna go. I was like, hold on, this thing is that he was number one because I didn't want to go in there and fuck up his spot. I was like, damn.
No.
6'3" small forward would be crazy.
No, I'm talking about Melo. But and then you got Chris Bosh, who was top 5?
Chris Bosh easily a top 5 power forward.
Yeah, he was a top 5 power forward for sure.
He'd probably, because at that point in time, I think there was an argument because, again, most guys stopped being great post 30. So, like, there was a real argument because of his age. It was like, all right, Duncan's over 30, Dirk's over 30, KG's over 30. Like, he was next. There was an argument he was the second best big man in the East behind Dwight. Like that last year in Toronto.
So, but yeah, when you talk about beating a team with 3 guys who are all top 3 maybe at their positions.
Yeah, that'll never happen again. And that's and to credit to what LeBron did. And now let me say that. Let me because I don't want to be a hypocrite. That won't happen to anyone again because people don't agree with my opinion on Klay Thompson. Let me make sure I'm not a hypocrite. Because otherwise, LeBron, yes, he beat 3 guys who were top 3 at the position. But that's a Justin opinion. Ain't nobody going.
I don't think it's crazy to say he was a top 3 shooting guard. He just was not the best shooting guard.
He was. If we really sat down and dissected the names, because I mean, outside of him and James Harden, I don't even know who else will be at who else at the shooting guard position that we have really at that point.
You had
that at that time is like
2 guard was tough. It was not looking good for that position.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't even know who else would have really been in the conversation off the top of my head.
And I think the thing to me that always lifts that run for Dirk and just Dallas in general is that nobody thought they'd get to that point. Nobody thought they'd get to that point. They
swept the Lakers, right?
They swept the shit out the Lakers. They beat the shit out the Lakers.
And that was coming as 2-time defending champ.
It was an argument of like, are they going to beat Portland in round 1? You had to debate that thought. So it's like for them to go on, sweep the Lakers who had won back-to-back, and then go to the Western Conference Finals, and that's one of the more like underrated Western Conference Finals with them and the Thunder. Like that was like some good hoop. They beat the Thunder, who were looked at that time probably about a year or 2 away, and then they go on and beat Miami. It's just like shit, like that. We did not see that coming.
Yeah, no, it's that. I think that also does help is because no one thought 3-1 is crazy. Like down 3-1, which obviously helps LeBron's argument for that run. Again, there's really no wrong answer here. I'm gonna put the poll up later on YouTube and Twitter, but the difference I think is Dallas. Yeah, you're right. Like there was talks like Dallas could lose in the first round. That was never really a talk with Cleveland. LeBron's really only competition at that point in time was like we just knew he was getting to the finals. It was could he beat the Warriors, and no one thought he could. Which again, credit to him. Great run, great comeback, all that shit. But I do think the Dirk run is my money would be on the Dirk run, and I don't think we're ever going to see a run get close to that because that was young OKC, swept the Lakers, and who did we just say in the Western Conference Finals?
OKC was in the Western Conference Finals. They beat Portland in round 1. Yeah,
Portland first round. Okay, so Portland first round, you sweep the 2-time defending champs. I don't remember if there was no injuries, right? Like Powell and Odom were playing. Bynum probably was, but I don't really view Bynum like that. Like the Lakers were pretty much healthy.
Yeah, I don't think it was any like crazy injury that stopped it. Like they just lost.
Yeah,
and that's kind of when the Lakers started. You kind of started to see them get a little bit old at that point too.
Oh yeah, no, that team got old fast as hell. And then obviously like a year and a half later is when Kobe tore. Excuse me. and then that went downhill. But no, that Dallas run is an all timer, and that's again, this is why the ring arguments suck a lot of the times, is because yes, you give credit to the guys. What the hell? Oh, okay. You give credit to the guys who have like 3, 4, 5 rings, but when you look at it, like Dirk has one title and it's super memorable. KG has one title and it's super memorable. Like that is when you would get to actually just enjoy the guy's career and enjoy them being great. Like you don't have to sit there and go, oh, he ain't get 3 titles, so his career ain't shit. Or oh, he ain't get a dynasty, so his career ain't shit. Like both those things can exist. We can appreciate Steph and what the Warriors did and be like, oh my gosh, that was an all-time thing. And also appreciate Dirk only getting one and realize, all right, that's an all-time thing. KG only getting one. Like, not everybody gonna be Steph for Duncan or LeBron. Like, and that's okay.
So after Dallas wins this championship and they finally break through, and this is where it really, really gets to the Luka of it all, and why the comparison, not necessarily the comparison, but the careers as Mavericks and what we really didn't get to see Luka's career as a Maverick go is just so it's going to be interesting probably to the end of Luka's career. After the Mavericks win the championship, they come back the next year in another strike shortened season, like we mentioned. They go 36-30, lose first round. They do not get past the first round again until 2021-22, when they lost to the Warriors, who were going to win the championship. They lost to the Warriors in the conference finals. They would not win 50 games again until the 2014-2015 season. They won 50 exactly. Since Dallas won the championship, where they went 57-25, they've won 50 games twice. They have not eclipsed 55 games at all. They've won 50 games 3 times. I'm sorry. They won 50 games 3 times since they last won the title. They've made it out of the first round only twice. In those 2 years, they went to the Western Conference Finals and the finals. Coming into the year, this was a team that was looked at could potentially make another run at the Western Conference Finals. They could compete with any team in the conference based on the makeup of the team and the 2 stars they had. And Mark Cuban sells the team last year. He still has a minority stake. Luka is now a Laker. Kyrie has a torn ACL. Anthony Davis, who they traded for in the Luka trade, probably will not play again based on the roster makeup. And we just talked about a team that went through a decade of trying to break through, trying to get to a championship, that went through so many bumps and bruises, so many ups and downs, different coaches, different players. And now they are going to be in a tough, tough spot. Kyrie's in his 30s, recovering from an ACL injury, and his game is a lot of Kyrie's game is based on his mobility, and his legs and things like that, and being able to cross over, shoot, stuff like that, get to the cup. We just spent the hour talking about a franchise that won a lot, that had a lot of success, that made for the most a lot of the right moves, and for the last damn near 20 years, at least the last 15 years, they've done almost everything wrong.
No, it don't take much to you're dealing with thin lines and all this shit, and so it don't take much for like 1 or 2 decisions to go right and better than expected, and that turns your franchise around. And it don't take 1 or 2 decisions to fuck it up. Like I keep bringing up the Warriors. Like history overlooks a lot of shit. Steph or Monte Ellis was a discussion at one point, and them niggas had to make a decision on who they want to trade for Andrew Bogut. If Steph gets traded for Andrew Bogut, NBA history is totally different. And that's how, again, you get like Mark Cuban made the correct decisions. He did, what do you call it? He made the couple of right choices. Again, I don't think it was necessarily, I forget exactly if it was like, you can only play either Nash or Dirk. I don't think so, but there was a decision that had to be made on whether it was money wise, whether could they play together, could they win together, and so Steve gets traded to Phoenix, and again, see how careers play out differently. Steve Nash, yes, he gets a couple MVPs, but never wins a title. Dirk gets an MVP and a title. Like, there's so many ways and so many quick things that can fuck a franchise up. Will was on Tuesday, and we were talking about like the Celtics and the Nets trade. It's like the Celtics realized Pierce and KG, they realized before everybody else, they probably got like a year left. And so we're going to get rid of them, get all these Brooklyn Net draft picks. The Nets had the one playoff run against the Wizards. I think whatever shot Pierce hit, I think it was against the Wizards.
No, he was on the Wizards when he hit that. I think the one playoff series that team might have won was against, I think, Toronto in like round 1.
Yeah, that sounds right. But it's like, so the Celtics knew, like, all right, we're gonna eat this for a year or two, and then we're gonna have a fuck ton of draft picks. Like, if I'm correct, both Brown and Tatum are technically draft picks that came from the Nets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the difference in, did you make the right trade at the right time? You gave up, Tony remembers his Jared Sullinger years, and now he's here.
Sports is, like we always say, sports is stupid. It's a mental illness. But when you're a fan of a team like the Mavericks, who they traded for Luka in the Trae Young move, which is in time we'll probably look back and be like, what happened there? Depending on what happens, I think Trae's still a really good player, but Luka is a generational player. And they obviously make that move, and you assume you sit there as a Mavericks fan and you see how things play out with Luka, and you assume that we're going to be fine. Like, we're just going to keep winning and building a championship team around Luka. You make the finals last year, and he's the next Dirk. We went through this with Dirk, so it's okay. If it takes a while to get to a title, we're fine with that. But we know we got our guy. And then overnight, your franchise just changes the snap of a finger. And obviously, it ain't shit you could do about it. And you can't really understand the rationale behind why this happened.
Some day your superstar gets traded. Some days y'all get the superstar. Shout out to the NBA is rigged, though. Like, y'all is...
It's not a real sport. It's not a real sport.
Niggas keep posting. They like, with wrestling, they like, yo, niggas supposed to tell me this shit real and wrestling is fake. They got all the highlights of niggas traveling, doing fucking triple step backs.
I'm just saying. Hands up.